Rodney, thank you for making time. Well, what are some of the factors that you would say informed the report that Cyton released stating that Kenya's macroeconomic outlook is set to contract or play in the negative territory?
First of all, thank you for having me. And with regards to that query, I'd say most of our inferences have been informed by, I'd say, both statistics that we're seeing in the global space, where we have reports done by World Bank and IMF, and also the reports that we receive locally from the CBK, just various macroeconomic indicators that we tend to focus on to give us a picture of how the general economy is moving towards. So considering things like how businesses have been performing, where you look at the PMI, where it declined in April significantly to the lowest it's been, and increased to highs towards the end of this year. So there's some specific indicators that we focus on that help us now come up with our outlook, where we project a slight contraction in the economy, given the effects that we are seeing from the COVID-19.
Speaking of contraction, before we go to sectoral review, quarter three of 2020, 2.5 percentage points of contraction. What are some of the factors that led to that, or how did we come about to that?
So it's normally driven by the major sectors. You have tourism, you have horticulture. So you have certain sectors that contribute a significant portion of the output in the economy. So this contraction is brought about by the, I'd say, disruptions in terms of the business environment, where in tourism you're seeing, because of lockdown restrictions, hotels aren't performing as well as they are, where this year we've seen quite a number close down. Tourist arrivals at the main airport have gone down significantly. When you look at things like import-export of goods for Kenya, horticulture and tea had been affected significantly because of these restrictions. So this now trickles down, and now you see the effects that bring out the overall growth to the economy to a contraction that now highlighted in our report.
Now that you've mentioned the sectors, let's talk about one of the sectors that was hardest hit, food and accommodation, a contraction rather of 83.3 percentage points. What impact does this sort of contraction have on the economy in general?
So a contraction like this can be seen in various forms. An example would be you have a number of business owners who own hotels, restaurants, bars, and because everybody's locked in their homes, you're not selling as much as you used to. These establishments are employers, so you have guys who work in these various establishments. So that means in the various households, we find individuals who are out of jobs. So ultimately, we are seeing a significant decline in incomes, both for businesses and households. And now this also leads to a decline in overall production of the economy. That's where we now bring about the whole sense of a contraction.
And there are sectors that have also played a really crucial role in buffering the economy, among them agriculture. Talk to us about that.
When we talk about agriculture, I'd say for the better part of this year, we've seen favorable rainfall. So food prices have remained relatively stable. This can be seen also in the inflation rate, which has remained within the government's target. So I'd say sectors like agriculture have helped just buffer or mitigate the effects of the pandemic, where you'd find where people expected food prices to go up, they remain relatively low. So when you have that little income, you're able to make it through in the long run.
Now, the government has been doing this gradual reopening and trying to ease different sectors and Kenyans in general back to work. And according to the report that you guys did, you're saying this opening up has sort of eased economic recovery in the country. How is that so?
So easing of some of these lockdown restrictions, for example, like extending the curfew, have allowed businesses to sort of operate within longer working hours, allowing them to also improve in their revenues. People are coming out a lot more, so spending is increasing gradually. So businesses are slowly coming back up to where they were, and this can be seen in where the PMI hit highs of around 59 in October. So this is one of the notable indicators that we see where production is sort of resuming in the general economy, just because of the easing in these restrictions.
And what does this mean for the private sector?
So for the private sector, I'd say it's an opportunity to sort of recover because at us being in 2021, given an outlook of what we had experienced earlier, when the ease or the restrictions were eased during the year, see now businesses can sort of recover from the revenue losses that they had experienced at the first quarter of the year. So that sort of just gave them that opportunity to recover before the end of the year. As a result, just to try and salvage what is left.
Now, you guys are putting positive economic recovery at 4.7% in the year 2021. World Bank said it might be 6.9% depending on educational output and resumption of learning activities in the country. Talk to us about that.
So we're projecting a gradual recovery on our end, just by the virtue of how the government has been able to handle the situation. And also putting into consideration the virus is still at large, and come 2021, it's not like the virus will disappear. So these projections are definitely based on how the government will handle this COVID situation. We're seeing the vaccines are available, but how soon it will get to Kenyans is also a matter of question. So when we project this growth, we are a bit on the conservative end, whereas World Bank give a more optimistic approach, given that the whole economy seems to be recovering, production is resuming, rainfall is here, so agriculture will be a major driver of the economy going forward. Fuel prices have sort of stabilized, so the general outlook is positive, though now, given that the virus is still with us, it's subject to discussion.
What can we expect in Q1 and probably the first half of this year?
Given how 2020 was, we should see better performance, though we are in January, which is infamous for the struggles it comes with in terms of households and them being able to keep up with the first month of the year. So we are optimistic. We'll have a good first 3 months of the year. So for us, it's just to wait and see and just hear what the government has to say.
Finally, to improve the general macroeconomic outlook, what more needs to be done?
From the global space, we're seeing a lot of the countries are still maintaining the measures they had put in place just to try and hasten the recovery. But for Kenya, we are seeing some of these regulations are lapsing, like the extensions that were given to, let's say, banks or listings to CRB have lapsed. So slowly the measures that were put in place are lapsing for Kenyans. So we are not quite sure how bearable it will be going forward and how it will support the recovery. But we are still optimistic and looking forward to a good year.
Rodney, that's where we leave it. Thank you for making time.
Always a pleasure.